Welcome to the NFL Kickoff. NFL Kickoff is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Are you looking to bet on the upcoming week of NFL action? After last week's electric performance, Justin Herbert and the Chargers take on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Not to mention a ton of other great games on the weekly slate. Check out the link in the description to get a deposit match up to $1,000 through DraftKings and the Sports 2.0 network. Last night's Thursday night football game pitted the visiting Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the home Philadelphia Eagles. The game looked like an early blowout at halftime, with Tampa Bay taking a 21-7 lead. That trend continued in the third quarter, with Leonard Fournette pounding in the ball from the 1-yard line to take a 28-7 lead. The Eagles, they didn't want to give up, and they rallied right back into the game, scoring 2 touchdowns and a 2-point conversion to get back into the game 28-22, much to the dismay of bettors who had Tampa beating that 7-point spread. Tampa was able to run out the clock to get the road win, even though the bettors definitely took a loss last night. Tanner, the Buccaneers, they are 5-1, and they look like they're back in Super Bowl form. What do you think about the Buccaneers and their chances of winning both the NFC South and the NFC as a whole?
I like the Buccaneers' chance to win the South. I mean, you got to worry about the defense, obviously, and the secondary and all that. But Brady looks good. Brady still looks like he's 20 years old, playing quarterback at 40-something right now. So that was fun to watch last night. Now, I was one of the bettors that had the Bucs at -7, and I almost broke my television last night when that occurred, when they went for 2. So I was not very happy about that. So that's kind of what I'm here to talk about a little bit today. But yeah, thanks for having me on the show. I'm filling in, but you know what? I'll take it. Anytime I can talk about football, can't beat it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to have you on. We do miss Tony. He's on his way home for the weekend from college, so you guys will see him next week. But for now, we got Tanner, and Tanner is pretty awesome. Tanner, can you tell us about your recent announcement that you joined a picking platform?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. So it's kind of like let me think how it's called Sharp Picks. So it's like a picking platform for sports media personalities. So I'm amongst some of the guys from like Fox Sports, NFL.com, Boston Globe. So very exciting stuff. Hopefully the record's good. Yesterday it's my first night picking. I went 3-1. I won my 2 college games. I won the Bucks money line, and then obviously did not win Bucks spread. But I also had Bucks spread for my own wallet, and that was not good for me there. So yeah, but it's very, very excited about that, joining Sharp Picks, or Sharp Rank. And then I'm one of the sharps on there. So should be fun. Should be a good time. Appreciate you asking about that, and hopefully go follow me on there, guys, and we'll win some money together.
Absolutely. I do hope that we'll win some money together. Now, the Buccaneers, they're given a 96% chance to win the playoffs by 538. They are given an 88% chance of just winning the division and a 31% chance of getting the first round bye, with a 16% chance of winning the Super Bowl. What do you think about those numbers? Do you agree with any of them? Disagree with any of them? I'm surprised about the first round bye, just because obviously Arizona has the game advantage on the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, can you read the numbers to me one more time?
Yeah, of course. The Buccaneers have a 96% chance to make the playoffs, an 80% chance to win their division, a 31% to win their first round bye, which is the highest in the NFC, and then a 16% chance of winning the Super Bowl, which is also the highest in the NFC.
Well, so we look at that with the Cardinals, right? It's like, how long are they going to keep this going for? Obviously, they look sensational, but if I'm going to bet on someone, I'm going to bet on a guy like Tom Brady, who's been here. He's done it. We're seeing the Buccaneers. They had all 22 starters return this year. See what they did. I mean, they're playing very well right now. The only team they lost to the only team that gave them a fight was the Rams. I mean, Brady dominated the Cowboys in week 1. You can't really judge that, I would say. But, yeah, I mean, I like all those numbers in the Cardinals. I'm excited to see what they do this week. Can they keep it up? Kyler Murray looks sensational. He's hard to beat. But again, I'm not going to bet on the guy that hasn't done it before, hasn't done it consistently, right? Like Brady's been there. He's done it. So obviously he gets the nod with the percentage points.
Yeah, absolutely. The Buccaneers next week in week 7, they will take on the Bears at home. I kind of like the Buccaneers to win that matchup. I don't expect the Bears to put up any fight, really. Justin Fields seems to be overwhelmed when he's pressured. We saw that in Bears Cleveland. So I would anticipate he's really going to struggle in that one. Do you concur?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think much of Justin Fields right now. I think Matt Nagy was trying to lose his job before he named Justin Fields full-time starter, and now maybe he'll stick around for another year. But yeah, I haven't been impressed with Justin Fields that much. I mean, what have you seen? I mean, have you seen anything to hang your hat on?
I think that I've seen some positives, but I'm taking them as positives while being a little skeptical. I think that he is playing with a poor offensive line, and he has had good performances against the Lions, most notably. But that's also against the Lions. That comes with an important caveat. But I think there is a case to be made for him being arguably the best rookie in terms of performance thus far through the season, just because Trevor Lawrence is not playing incredible. He's playing well, I think, for a rookie, but he's not playing incredible. He's not winning games. I do think Fields actually did win them the game against the Lions. I think there's a case to be made there. Wilson obviously has played abysmally. He turned the ball over against the Falcons and cost them the game. And Lance, obviously, I don't think Lance's sample size is big enough. I do think he played fairly well against the 49ers, but I would like to see more out of Lance before I can really raise a judgment. And then Mac Jones, I know you're a Pats fan, so maybe we'll have more insights on Mac. But Mac has had his moments, don't get me wrong, but he's also had a lot of disappointing moments, most notably that Saints game. I think that's a big one. He looked great against the Buccaneers, but then he struggled against the Texans and almost let the Texans win that game. So I don't feel confident in saying that there's one that stands particularly better than the rest, but I think Fields might be the best just because everyone else has been so poor.
Well, you know who you forgot on that list, right?
Who?
Davis Mills.
You're right. You're right.
Little Davis Mills action. He tore the Patriots up last week, and that was embarrassing to watch for the Patriots secondary and Patriots front seven, honestly, not getting a rush on him. But yeah, I mean, Mac's been better than I thought he was going to be, at least to start. So we can look at the Saints game and say, okay, yeah, he kind of dropped the ball. He's throwing some picks here or there. He's not really taking the deep shots, even though he kind of is a little more now because we're not running the football as much. But yeah, I mean, I've been pretty impressed with Mac overall. I'm happy. I don't think he's Tom Brady 2.0 by any means, but he's definitely going to be the franchise quarterback. Yeah,
no, absolutely. I think that is definitely a good find. Not to say that he's playing poorly by any means, but I'm a little bit, I think, more positive on Fields than you are. Yeah. Now let's move over to the Eagles. They're 2-4. They're obviously trailing the 4-1 Cowboys, who lead the NFC East, so they don't have a shot to win the division with a crappy record like they did last year. What do you think the ceiling is, and do you think that Jalen Hurts is a legitimate franchise quarterback?
See, I don't know. I haven't seen enough from Jalen Hurts to call him a legitimate franchise quarterback, because when you talk about a legitimate franchise quarterback, you win games. And that's something Jalen Hurts has not been able to do. Now, I'm not saying the team around him is great by any means, but there's some bright spots to look at. You look at Devontae Smith. I mean, that they look electric together, honestly. And the offense looks okay. Jalen Hurts can definitely run the ball. He can use his legs. I think he's got a very high ceiling, but what kind of team are you going to put around to win? Just trade Zach Ertz away. That breaking news before this as well. I mean, I think Jalen's going to be okay, but I think he's going to be just one of those kind of, above average quarterbacks that really doesn't do much in Philadelphia. What do you think?
I think I'm worried more about, you're right. He can definitely pass the ball. Run the ball. And I do think that he has potential around him. And I think that offense looks significantly better than it did last season, where it was pretty horrible with Carson Wentz. But I am worried about his arm. There were some throws that I thought he could have made that could have made the game a little bit different. But again, I think that the talent isn't good enough to tell right now. And if I'm Philadelphia, I'm not rushing this. I'm going to take my time with this evaluation and really build around it, because there isn't a quarterback that really blows me away in this upcoming draft, which I'm kind of assuming that they'll have a high pick for. So I would try and build out the roster before I completely bail on Hurts.
Yeah, and Hurts came alive late in the second half last night. I mean, you can say they kind of had like a little bit of a backdoor cover there. But like they worked. I mean, they worked to get back in the game. I wouldn't say the Bucs let them back in the game. I mean, Tom Brady's interception before the half was embarrassing, but that didn't hurt them at all. So I mean, Jalen Hurts, he impressed me last night with some of the stuff he did in clutch situations. But again, I just don't think the talent is there right now for him to really become that next dude playing quarterback. Like if you put him in probably like a New England, honestly, right now, I think he'd be pretty successful.
No, absolutely. I really do think that the cast around him is going to limit him for the foreseeable future, which is why he should not be rushed into any sort of, evaluation. Like, take your time evaluating him, especially because like it's not like there's a transcendent quarterback in the draft. We did talk about people like Spencer Rattler, like Sam Howell out of North Carolina, who were very promising quarterbacks, but everybody has really fallen off this year, and it does not feel like there's a standout who I would say is obviously better than Hurts, which is why I think that you just got to build around him first.
And he's good enough to build around and put a team together. And, you look at what he did at Alabama. He's a national champion in Alabama too. I mean, we talk about him getting benched with Tua and all that, but he stepped up, and that showed his character at Alabama when Tua came in, and he still stayed there before he ultimately went to Oklahoma and all that. But like, that's the kind of kid he is. And I think if you build a team around that, he's a leader, and that's the bottom line. In the NFL, you need a quarterback who's a leader. He can make the throws. Yes, he did miss some, but he can also run, so that adds another dimension to his game. So yeah, I'm impressed with him, but again, the team's not there right now.
No, it's definitely not. Now 538 has them with a projected average record of 7-10. Would you hit the over or under on 7-10? Because I'm personally inclined, based on the product I've seen of 2-4, to take the under. I don't think that they're going to win, at least 5 more games.
Yeah, I would take the under on that. Like, I went into the game last night thinking, all right, Bucks -7, Bucks -7, Bucks -7, and then I see the stat that Brady hadn't covered in his past 10 primetime games, which you can't go off that. But yeah, I mean, last night they were not in that football game at any point, really. I know they came back and Brady drove down the field late and stuff, but there was never a point where I was worried that Bucks money line wasn't going to hit. So yeah, I would say no, bet the under on that. I mean, it might be a push worst case, but bet the under.
Absolutely. And the Buccaneers drove the field too. Like, if they wanted to score, I think they could have scored. It's just a question of they'd rather play out the clock and win the game rather than beat the spread. But I think they could have very easily beat the spread, even considering kind of how lackluster they were to end that game.
Oh, yeah, they should have kicked a field goal there. I was like, why aren't you kicking a field goal? Kick a field goal. And they didn't do that. So
yeah, the Eagles cared about the bettors. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers did not.
Honestly, though, like, if you go into a game thinking, all right, you need bulletin board material, right? So it's like, we're not going to win this game. It's realistically, all right, so say they don't get it. You're still down 8. You're still in a position to win the game, right? If you do get it, now a 6 and a field goal wins. Now all these coaches have these different spreadsheets, right? If it's this situation, we're going to go for 2 here. And I don't know what they were thinking, but the only thing I could conceptualize after the game was they did that despite bettors. Did they? I don't know if they're making that decision in the moment, but it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah, I mean, if you're down 9, I understand going, for 2 there. There are situations where you're trying to cut that lead down, but just being down at that point, you're 8 points down, but you also have the chance at the extra point. I just don't get it. I feel like that has to be it. I'm still waiting for a good explanation on how it is not that way.
And I was pumped too. Like, when I saw it, I'm like, all right, it's fine. Instead of a push, I'll get it's you're going for the win, or because I had it at -7, so you're going for the win, or you're going for the loss instead of going for the push. Now, push is a win in sports betting, obviously, because you get money back. But still, it's what it is. We're at sports bet. That's why we love it.
Absolutely. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, we said we think they're very well on their way to defending their Super Bowl crown, or the very worst, they're at least comfortably in the mix. I think it's very conceivable that they, at the worst, get bounced in the divisional round of the playoffs. The team that the Buccaneers beat last year, the Kansas City Chiefs, though, they can't say the same. I'm quite skeptical of how they're going to recover, to be quite honest. They're just so down in their division against the Chargers. They're 4th in their division through week 5, which if you had that, you should probably win $1 million.
Yeah.
I'd love to have seen odds on Kansas City having a losing record and being 4th in the division through week 5. Now, they lost 38-20 at home to the Buffalo Bills and looked just pretty bad, which kind of blew my mind. Now, if the playoffs were today, the Chiefs would completely miss them by a couple of teams. I believe they currently sit 10th in the AFC standings. Tanner, what do you see as problems for the Chiefs, and can they fix them and make the playoffs?
Don't get me started on the Chiefs right now. I have lost so much money betting on the Chiefs this year. It's not even funny. And I still stick with them. I still go with them. This weekend, I'm hammering them against the Washington football team. But the bottom line for me is, I think the Chiefs are still going to be a wild card team. I don't know if they'll win the division right now. They got a big hole to climb out of to win the division at this point in the season. And honestly, if they go to Washington this week and lose, I still think they're a playoff team. But again, you got to be concerned. The bottom line from what I've seen is Patrick Mahomes is not really taking care of the football. And, this is the first time where they're asking him to go out and win games, and he's not delivering, right? Like, every year it's been Patrick Mahomes, okay, we ask you to do this and you go deliver. This is the first time he's hit a little adversity there, so I'm excited to see how he bounces back. And, defensively, they're not playing great either, so it's just a bad mix. And, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Taylor Heineke makes this game close this weekend.
No, I totally expect him to, and we'll get into that a little bit. But can you imagine, just first off, can you imagine winning your division and, like, let's say, I'm going to assume it's an AFC South team. So let's imagine you're the Tennessee Titans. You win your division. You battled hard all season. Who are you hosting round one of the playoffs? It's the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, do you agree with that though? Like they'll be in the wild card for sure.
I will be shocked if they're not a wild card team. That feels like an absurdity. Now, that could just be me saying that they're a name brand team, because that is kind of something that I feel like when it was Chiefs Bills, I came to the game saying, wow, the Bills are expected to win by so many people. Like if you look at ESPN's expert predictions, 7 out of 10 of the panel had taken the Chiefs to lose to the Bills. And I was like, this is going to be Chiefs all day. This is kind of when the Chiefs have a wake-up call. It was me with a wake-up call instead. Yeah. But I do think the Chiefs are going to get on the right path. One thing that everybody has pointed out is that the Chiefs are actually being defended differently than they have been in the past, whereas you were trying to just kind of survive almost. Teams are now happy. They're going to drop back in cover 2, cover 3. They're going to let Mahomes take the short, easy completions and hit a check down. But Mahomes doesn't actually like hitting checkdowns. He likes trying to score as much as possible. And to be fair, like in years past, he didn't actually need to score as much as possible. But with a defense this bad, he does need to score as much as possible. The Bills put up 38 on the road. That's kind of insane. He's going to need to score probably a minimum of 35 points to win every single game this season. So Mahomes, like you said, he needs to be more patient. He needs to not turn the ball over as much. He is on track, I believe, to hit 50 touchdowns this season, which is incredible. But he's also on track to hit a career high in interceptions. So he needs to take care of the ball better.
Yeah, and what surprised me from his stats in the Bills game was he threw the ball 50-something times. He only threw for 270 yards, I think. It was around there. But, like, for him throwing the ball 50-something times, you would think he'd be going way over 300 yards. Just not great from Patrick Mahomes. And he's going to be fine. You saw what he did in the Super Bowl last year. That was unreal. Like, if you talk about an MVP of the Super Bowl, I know the Bucs won the game. I know Mahomes didn't do great in the stat sheet, but just the plays he was able to make with absolutely no offensive line, the dude's legit. But yeah, he's got to settle back, not go for the explosive play, and just work the ball down the field. Hopefully the defense improves a little bit.
Yeah, no, that brings me to my second point. How do you see the defense improving?
I don't know, man. And they have a hell of a coach there too. What's the DC? Spags, yeah. I mean, they have a hell of a coach there. I don't know. You got to get healthy. Obviously, got some injuries right now. Is Matthews hurt? Right.
I believe Jones was missing for the Bills, and Matthew has been bouncing in and out. I believe. Yeah, I think he missed against the Browns, so I don't know where he's at right now.
Yeah, so you got to get healthy, and you look at this defense. I mean, this defense was good last year. Like like defense is okay. Like they're going to be fine. I think you just got to settle down. You got to win a game. You got to get back on the winning track. I think this is a great week to get back on the winning track defensively and figure out your scheme, because you're going against Taylor Heineke. You're not going against a brutal offense by any means. I mean, Josh Allen, you say what you want, putting up 38 points last week. Josh Allen is a good quarterback, and that's a good Buffalo team, right? So, yeah, they did come into Arrowhead Stadium, put up 38 points. But again, you know what? I'd rather go on the road to Washington and bounce back than host the Bills and say I'm at home and I'm playing the Bills. You know what I'm saying?
No, I absolutely do. Now, this is an interesting stat. Maybe you've heard it, maybe you haven't. So the widely considered greatest offensive team, the LA Rams, the greatest show on turf year, they averaged 7 yards per play.
Yeah.
That is the greatest mark by an offense in the history of the NFL. The Chiefs are allowing an average of 7.1.
Thanks.
So the problem with the Chiefs is that they no longer have like the height of Patrick Mahomes through 5 games. He's not playing like he used to, and they are making their opposition into Patrick Mahomes. So I think that the Chiefs recover. Basically, like you said, health is huge. They're missing Chris Jones. Matthews, obviously, he's out too. That's a problem. Those are 2 really essential guys. But I also think that there's something to be said for defense lagging behind offense, if you will. Defenses need to kind of learn offensive tendencies. The more film they get there, the more they're going to be able to do that. The more reps they get, they're going to mesh better as a unit together. And I think that COVID protocols made life harder for defenses last year. So I think that the Chiefs might still be experiencing the ramifications of those. You're limiting your exposure to in-person meetings. Instead, it's being done by Zoom, and I do maintain that there is a difference in your information retention when it comes to Zoom versus being in person.
Yeah, and I mean, I also will say the Chiefs' schedule has been pretty difficult so far. I believe let me pull it up here, but they have not had an easy schedule. So they're 2-3, but they've also played some teams.
By Football Reference, they have a strength of schedule of 7.2. That is the most difficult strength of schedule in the AFC, as well as the NFC. It's in fact, it's by quite a wide margin that it is the toughest schedule. So I think that it makes sense that they're 2-3. I would have said I'm surprised that they're not, maybe 3-2. Football Reference does have an expected win-loss based on their strength of schedule and SRS, which is their overall team metric. And their expected win-loss is 2.3 and 2.7. So, Football Reference is not that shocked by this, which I think is interesting. But I guess I would have at least expected them to be 500 at this point.
Yeah, I mean, so you got Browns, then they lost to the Ravens in Baltimore, Chargers, that's a tough game. Eagles, that's not a tough game. Bills, a tough game. You got Washington, Tennessee, New York. Realistically, you should go 3-0 before you face Aaron Rodgers. Then you got to go play Las Vegas. I think Las Vegas will be faded by then, especially with what happens with Gruden. Cowboys is going to be a tough game. Then you beat the Broncos. You should beat the Raiders again. You got the Chargers again. That'll be tough. Steelers should be a win. Bengals should be a win. Broncos should be a win. So they're going to be fine. They got to win a couple close games in there. But like this weekend against Washington's a must win for them when you do look at the remainder of their schedule.
No, definitely. It is a must win. You have to win the gimmies. Like you have to win that. They did obviously, but you have to win those games like against the Eagles to keep pace. Now, 538 does not favor the Chiefs to win the division, which kind of makes sense. It gives them a 64% chance of making the playoffs, but only a 19% chance of winning their division, only a 2% chance of acquiring the AFC's first round bye, and a 4% chance of winning the Super Bowl. Do you agree with those numbers?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be a Super Bowl team out of the AFC this year. I think it's Buffalo's time. I think it's the Chargers' time. There's a lot of good teams. People have caught up to the Chiefs. So, I don't think we'll see Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. But again, if a team's going to get hot late, and it's Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I agree with those numbers right now, just based off the way the season's going. But from what I've seen with baseball, at least, those numbers jump around so much. So right now I kind of agree with that because they are down in the dumps. I mean, you go into lose to Washington, this conversation we're having right now is totally different next week. Or, the conversation you're going to be having with Tony next week, totally different.
Yeah, a 2-4 Chiefs with Rodgers on the horizon is very different than a 3-3 Chiefs with Rodgers on the horizon.
Yeah,
absolutely. 100%. All right, now let's move on to our Week 6 predictions. So Tony obviously isn't here. He did send me his picks, and I will read them as they come up. But Tanner instead is going to offer his picks, and I trust him because, like he said, he went 3-1 last night. So I do think that he's pretty smart when it comes to gambling. I try to stick more to money line just because I think that's more what I'm interested in is the wins and losses. But I'm really excited to see what Tanner says because I really do respect his opinion.
I'm a big spread guy. So like obviously I love money lines, and I think money lines have tremendous value in parlays. But again, scared money don't make money. I say it on my shows all the time. Like if you're betting, you got to bet spread to really make money on single games. And I think spread's interesting too, because it's like, all right, you got to take another thing into consideration. Like if a team's minus 12.5 or minus 11.5, like that's a big task to cover. So it gives a little more of a difficult bet. But again, excited to make some picks here. Let's get into it.
All right. So our first game is the 9:00 game in London. I really do kind of feel bad for London, but I'll get into that in a second. It's Dolphins taking on the Jaguars. Miami is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is set to 47.5. What do you have here, Tanner?
Well, first of all, what was the game in London last week? It was the Falcons and the Jets, right?
At Falcons. I feel bad for. I don't understand this. Why are we sending Jets Falcons to play in London and then following it up with Dolphins Jaguars? Do we want London to hate football? Is that what the NFL is trying to do? Like they're trying to persuade London to not want a franchise?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many London games there are this year. Is this the last? There might be one more after this. I'm not sure.
I believe it's just these two.
Okay. Well, we sent them terrible games, by the way. So Roger Goodell, London got terrible. Like you gave them the games that you would think Americans didn't want to watch. All right. But anyways, 9:30 on a Sunday morning. You can't beat that. Dolphins. I love the Dolphins. Now you have the line here -3. These are early in the week, and every sports book's different. Obviously, I like the Dolphins at -3.5 versus the Jaguars. You look what Urban's done right now. I mean, the Jaguars go out there and they don't look prepared to play football. Tua's supposedly going to be back this week, so that should help a little bit. Not that Brissett's been bad, not that Brissett's been like anything special, but I do like Dolphins with Tua coming back. I think it's a great week to bounce back in London. Go with the Dolphins -3.5.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I don't feel great about picking this just because I don't know what to expect from Tua being back from injury. It'll be really interesting to see how he's kind of recovered from his injury and how the play calling is different from Brissett to Tua, just because we really only got a small sample size of one game of a fully healthy Tua before he was injured week 2 against the Bills. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Dolphins just because I don't trust Urban Meyer in the NFL. I've never thought that was a good hire. I don't understand the rationale behind it. That's not true. I get the rationale behind it. I just don't like the rationale behind it. So I'm taking the Dolphins. I'm taking them to beat the spread. But I do have this game hitting the under. I don't think that there's going to be a ton of offense here. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence makes too many mistakes. I think they're going to be hesitant with Tua this week. So I would go under here as well. I hate betting unders. I hate it so much, but I would go under here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like I always kick myself on betting the over because I find myself like watching Chargers Raiders. I was like, hammer the over, hammer the over, went under. So then I told someone next week, oh, Browns Chargers. Well, the Chargers almost always they seem to be hitting the under a lot. So I tell you to take the under, and of course they score like 80 points, 90 points. So that is a tough pick at 47.5.
Yeah, that's kind of that sweet spot right there when you get into the 50, like 40s, 45. I'm a little safer going under, but a 50 something, if you're a game like a 51, 52, that game's probably going to go over just because of the teams that they're pairing up there. You get into 55s and it gets concerning. It's a crapshoot, man. That's what it comes down to.
It truly is. Now our next Tony picked the Dolphins, which smart pick. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think anyone has ever felt comfortable betting on the Jaguars as they have now lost 20 straight consecutive games.
I took them week 1, yeah, and that was not smart. So that's probably a good decision.
I took the Texans, and I'm so glad I did. Our next game is Vikings at Panthers. This one is money line with the Panthers being at home. I found that to be a really interesting one. The over-under is set 45.5. Tanner, who do you have here?
Oh, I had Vikings money line here. Bottom line is when we look at this game, and when you get -1.5, +1.5, I'll go money line because there's usually more value. But when I look at this game, right, Christian McCaffrey, is he going to be back? Is he not going to be back? We don't really know. He was supposed to be back last week. I believe he's probably going to be back this week based off what he said last week. So with that being said, that should take some pressure off Sam Darnold. But at the same time, we saw New York Sam last week, and New York Sam's not very pretty, right? So if I know McCaffrey has a history of injuries, right, and he is my team, I'm not going to put everything on Christian McCaffrey this week. So Sam Darnold's still going to have to step up. I don't think he steps up this week. I think he has a few more interceptions, and I like the Vikings here on the road. I don't think the Panthers haven't really impressed me that much based off when the teams that they played well against, like beating the Saints. Was that a big deal? I don't think the Saints are great by any means.
Mm. Yeah, no, every part of me wants to take the Panthers here, but I actually wrote about this game this week, and I took the Vikings. I took the Vikings to beat the spread. I took them for money line, and I did take this game to hit the under. I just don't know how Sam wins this one. I think that the Vikings are going to be able to apply a lot of pressure. Christian McCaffrey was held out of practice yesterday, which made a bit of Panthers news. So I don't think he's actually going to play this week, or if he does, like you said, it's going to be a very limited capacity. So I think the Vikings are going to be able to apply a lot of pressure to Sam. And like you said, when Sam gets pressured, Sam becomes New York Sam. And New York Sam averaging 3 turnovers a game. Or pretty close to it this season. So I'm taking the Vikings here. Tony also took the Vikings, which is not a surprise. Now we move to Chargers at Ravens. Baltimore at home is the 2.5 favorite. The over-under is set to 51.5. So, yeah, like you said, 50 typically indicates that we should be getting some fireworks out of this one. So who do you have here?
I got the over. Hammer the over in this football game. These two quarterbacks threw for 800 and something yards, 840 yards combined last week. I think it's going to be a shootout. It's the bottom line. It's going to be a shootout game. If I had to pick a winner here, which I would, a little same game parlay action. I'd go with the Chargers on the money line. I think the Chargers are rolling right now. I think Lamar gets shut down at home. But that's my take. Yeah, I think this is kind of my underdog pick of the week.
Yeah, so beyond this being an underdog pick of the week, this, in my opinion, should be game of the week. We'll get to what Sunday Night Football is later, but it's the shell of the Seattle Seahawks and a just miserable Pittsburgh offense. So that game is going to be terrible, and I think America is going to feel bad that they had to watch it. This game should be game of the week. If the NFL could change the schedule, they should change it to this being game of the week because, like you said, it's going to be incredible. The Chargers beat the Browns in kind of what was a really crazy game that the Browns had, I believe, a 14-point lead, and then the Chargers just snatched it from them. And, of course, the Ravens came from behind from the Colts. I almost turned that game off when the Colts scored to go up by, I believe it was 17, and I almost was just like, that's it. That's the game. But I stayed on, gave the Ravens another chance, and they kept going, and they played really well. I'm going to take the Ravens here just because the Chargers have a really poor rushing defense. It ranks 32nd in the league. So I think Lamar is going to be able to deal a lot of damage, and he's going to get a lot of support from his running backs. And I also think that the Ravens are going to be able to pressure Herbert. I believe it's the left side of his offensive line is not playing great. And so I think that the Ravens are going to be able to apply a lot of pressure there thanks to Houston. So I'm taking the Ravens.
All right. We disagree on one. There we go. That's good. That's what we need.
Conflict.
There we go. Conflict. That's what makes the show.
And Tony is remotely taking the Chargers, which does not surprise me. And, I know I'm wearing a Chargers hat right now, so you'd think I'd be inclined to take the Chargers, but it's more of a joke than anything else because I'm 1-4 in picking Chargers games. So don't listen to me. All right, we moved to Rams at Giants, which is going to be a bit of a bummer. It's a 9.5 spread in favor of Los Angeles. The over-under is set to 48.5, and I'm going to take the Rams here. I'm going to take it should be an easy win for the Rams. The Giants were destroyed by the Cowboys, but they also saw a mass amount of injuries to the team. Daniel Jones had a concussion. He has the potential to return, but he's still in protocol, so he may not actually play. Saquon Barkley, Kennedy Golladay, and Rodarius Williams are likely to miss the game as they have not practiced at all this week. And the Rams are coming off of a long week after beating Seattle, so if you have an argument for the Giants, I'd love to hear it.
I mean, no, I don't really have much of an argument here. I would say Matt Stafford's dealing with a hurt finger right now, and they could probably amputate it and they could still win the game. So I'm going to go with the Rams minus 9.5. One thing I will say though, hammer 9.5 right now, because it's not going to get better than this. It was at 10.5 earlier in the week. Hammer 9.5 because 10's a lot safer than 11. Obviously, the way football scoring works.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. Now we have Texans and Colts as our next game. This is another bummer too. Indiana has that 10 spread that you were talking about, and the Colts. They're not great by any means. They obviously blew that game to the Ravens. They're 1-4 right now. I expect them to get their second win of the season, which is kind of crazy that they're just only a one-win team after they kind of went all in to acquire Carson Wentz. But Davis Mills looked really good against the Patriots and almost got the Texans to win over the Patriots, which I did not see coming from a mile away. So I'm taking the Colts to win, but I think the Texans are actually going to cover.
Yeah, I got Colts to cover. I can't trust Carson Wentz multiple times.
Absolutely no.
Yeah, so I got to go. Carson Wentz could be hurt by the first quarter, honestly. Davis Mills will – you know what, too? You know what's going to happen? Davis Mills is going to throw 3 interceptions this week. It's going to happen. But you know what? That's fine. Whatever. We'll still cover. Texans. It's going to be an ugly game.
Yeah, it definitely will be. I feel comfortable taking the under here just because I don't expect a whole lot from either of these teams.
Yeah.
Tony is remotely taking the Colts, so that's 3-0 for the Colts. Now we move to Chiefs at Washington. This is a game we talked about earlier. Obviously, the line is 7 Chiefs, and the over/under is set to 54.5 because the Chiefs, they're going to score a lot of points, and their defense, it's essentially Swiss cheese. I'm going to take Kansas City, even though I don't feel fantastic about it because they are going to have that West Coast to East Coast, even if it's not as great because they're more central to the country than anything. But I also think that the Chiefs defense is going to really struggle against Heineke. I think Heineke is going to be able to kind of run the ball a little bit more, and he's going to have a really good performance. But I also think that the Washington secondary has regressed. It's one of the reasons that defense is so bad. They still have a respectable front seven, not great, but the secondary is bad. So I have a feeling Mahomes will have a good day, but so will Heineke. The Chiefs are going to win it, but the football team is going to cover the spread.
So I like that take a lot because I really genuinely think Washington's going to play well. Is it going to be enough to cover, though? I don't know, because the Chiefs really need a dominant win. They need to come out and they need to establish that they are still a contender in this league, which we all know they are, but you need to win. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs on the spread here, -6.5. I like it. If it was +7 for Washington, I'd probably lean that way a little bit, but I do like the Chiefs here. And also, when you look at this game as well, they're retiring Sean Taylor's number in Washington, and they announced it 3 days ago. So that probably was not a good call that they just announced it 3 days ago. So I'm going to go with the Chiefs. I think they pay for that mistake.
I wonder why they announced it so suddenly. It's almost like they're trying to divert media attention away from something. What could that be? I don't know. We'll talk about that in a second. Now we have Packers at Bears. Green Bay is a 4.5 favorite with the over-under set to 44. I'm taking the Packers to win the game, and I'm taking the Packers to beat the spread. They're going to take control of the NFC North. The Bears looked really good in their past 2 games, but again, it's the Lions and the Raiders. I don't know what you expected if you thought there's no reason you shouldn't look good against the Lions and the Raiders. And I think the Packers have a better defense than both of the teams that they played, so they should also definitely have a better offense than certainly the Lions and arguably the Raiders. So I'm taking the Packers, and they're going to beat the spread.
Yeah, and also, too, with that Raiders game, I got to think a little bit of there was some John Gruden talk going on there. I have to imagine. He got fired on Monday, right?
He resigned Monday.
Yeah, okay. So he got to step down on Monday. The game was Sunday. I have to imagine there was somebody knew what was going on there. But again, I don't think much of the Bears right now. I just don't think Matt Nagy's that great of a coach. And I love Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. I think hammer -4.5 here. It's going to be good to you.
Yeah, you know your coach is bad when he steps away from offensive play calling responsibilities and your team elevates its offensive performance.
And I know I got the Bears jacket on. We were talking about this before, but I got this for it's like $150 official sideline jacket. I got it for like $40, so you can't pass that up, and I like it, so I'm going to wear it.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't wear it on game day. You're going to root against them.
Yeah.
Now the next game is Bengals at Lions. This is an interesting one. What are your thoughts on it?
I think Joe Burrow mania is kind of running wild right now. Is he going to play this week though?
As far as I know, he does have that throat contusion problem, but I think he still is expected to play.
All right. So I will say one thing. I think there's excitement around Detroit Lions football right now. I really do. I genuinely do. I know they're 0-5, but you can kind of feel something's going on there. They are playing okay. Some weeks they show up, other weeks they don't. Now I got screwed last week when they played 2 weeks ago against the Bears, right?
Yes.
2 weeks ago against the Bears, I got screwed there in that game because I thought they were going to cover after coming back and covering against Baltimore. They didn't, obviously. But yeah, I like the Bengals in this game. I think the Bengals are pretty good. They're one step ahead of the Lions in that rebuilding process, so you got to go with them here.
Yeah, so Burrow is expected to play, but he is on voice rest because of that throat contusion. So I would have to imagine that they're going to change up how they count before the snap. So that'll be interesting. I like the Bengals to beat the spread just because I'm not as high on the Lions. I think they've had some close games, but they're very Lions losses.
Yeah.
And I think that it's just kind of Lions to lose badly at home to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that too. I'm going to go with Joe Burrow on the Bengals. I like Joe Burrow a lot. I think he's going to be one hell of a quarterback in the NFL in the coming year, so got to go with him.
Absolutely. All right, now we move to the 4:00 slate. Our first game at 4:05 is Cardinals at Browns, which is going to be a great game. It'll be for me as a football fan. It'll be interesting, just because I think it's going to be fascinating to see how that Arizona offense plays after they were limited very severely by the 49ers, and how this Browns defense that is supposed to be pretty good can kind of play against them and see how they can see. Well, this is kind of the team that I think is ideal to limit the Cardinals. I wrote recently that the Cardinals offense is great, but how it's addressed in college because it's air raid is you simply rush 3 and drop 8. And if there's a defensive line that boasts Myles Garrett, I think that is kind of the right recipe to be able to rush 3 and drop 8.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I just want to say Myles Garrett's Halloween decorations in his front yard were pretty funny too. You know what?
That was hilarious.
He should have had Mason Rudolph in there. That's like the one player that he's actually almost killed. So I was surprised he didn't have him on there. He just had Ben Roethlisberger. But yeah,
I think because he almost killed him, that's probably why he's not there.
So Cardinals, I think Cardinals at +3, honestly, is too good to pass up considering they are still undefeated. And like Kyler Murray, I was talking to Grant Mitchell, who does Parlay Power Hour with me in the morning, and we were talking about this game. And we look at like the Cardinals are +154 in the money line. That's tremendous value. And Kyler Murray is so good. You can game plan to him, you can scheme to him, and he's still going to find ways to beat you, even though if he plays right into your hand. So I'm going to go with the Cardinals until they lose. I mean, they're undefeated, so let's ride with them.
Yeah, no, that's a good take. This one feels hard to pick, and what kind of swayed me is that the Cardinals are 28th in the league against the rush in terms of rushing yards, and they're only 14th in rushing attempts against. So they're going to allow a lot of rushing yards on not a lot of attempts. Who do you think is really good at running the ball? Well, it's Cleveland, of course, because they have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. They actually lead the league in both rushing yards and touchdowns, which is why I'm going to give it to them, because I don't think they need an offense to go and score 40 points. They're going to be able to control the ball, possess the ball, and run the ball efficiently. That and Chandler Jones is out. He's on the COVID-19 list, so there's a chance he could come back, but I think he's more likely to miss the game at this point, considering that it's Friday and we have no news.
Yep. All right, well, that's a good take. I mean, if anyone's going to beat them, it's going to be the Browns, especially in a bounce-back week from the Chargers. I mean, they need a win, too. So that's a good take.
Yeah, absolutely. The Browns definitely need a win.
Yeah.
It's crazy to say that the Bengals could pass the Browns this week, which is just something that I did not expect coming into the season. Our next game is near and dear to Tanner's heart. It's Cowboys at Patriots. Dallas is a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is set to 50. Did it hurt you, because I'm assuming you did, to take the Cowboys?
Yeah, I would hammer I'm not going to bet on this game just because I can't do it. Because like when I thought Bucks -6.5 against the Patriots was going to hit, didn't. But again, too, I look at that game. Like, Patriots played really well there, but there was a lot of emotion, right? There's no emotion in this game. The Cowboys are just coming to New England. It wasn't like Tom Brady's returning home. The Patriots defense does not look great right now in some areas. Like the areas we expected the Patriots defense to look good, it doesn't look good. The areas we didn't expect, it looks okay. Secondary did not look good last week. That's concerning against Dak. I guarantee if Davis Mills can rip you up, Dak Prescott's going to be able to do it. And then offensively, I don't think we have the offense to keep up with them. Dallas's defense has been good, but I feel like they're going to break eventually. I don't think it's going to be this week. I would hammer Dallas at -3. Like you said, I think this spread is kind of embarrassing for the Cowboys.
I was gonna say, I don't understand why it's so close. This is a game that if you had told me the spread was maybe closer to 7, that would have been a spread I would have believed. The Cowboys, I believe, have beaten the spread in every single game. They're undefeated against the spread, and they've beat it by a significant number in their past 3 games.
Yeah.
So yeah, hammer the Cowboys. I'm taking the Cowboys just because the defense has improved a lot from last season, and Dak has not missed a single step from his injury. And I don't think that the Patriots have the offense to keep pace.
No, Dak's going to be comeback player of the year 100%. I was having this debate with my friend. He's like, oh, it was before the season started. He's like, Jameis is going to be comeback player of the year. I'm like, if you think Jameis Winston is going to be comeback player of the year, like it was after the 5 touchdown performance. I'm like, he threw 5 touchdowns, but he threw for 180 yards. Like, Jameis Winston is still Jameis Winston. He's not going to be comeback player of the year.
That's a bold take, Jameis Winston comeback player of the year. If I'd been smart, I would have put money on Dak at the beginning of the season, just because at best maybe Joe Burrow competes with him if Joe Burrow kind of lights the world on fire, and Dak has just played that much better than Joe Burrow, so it feels like there's no way this doesn't go to Dak.
Yeah, 100%. This game, I like this game a lot. Raiders and Broncos.
Raiders and Broncos, really?
Love this game.
Okay, well, why don't you tell us why?
Here's why. The Broncos are not a good football team.
No, they're not.
They're not a good football team. You know who's a decent football team? Las Vegas Raiders. Decent football team. They are good enough to go to Mile High Stadium and be within a field goal this weekend. Now, I know if you want to fade them because of the John Gruden situation, that's fine. Go for it. But you know what? It's either going to go 2 ways. It's going to be really good or really bad. I'm going to lean towards the side of it being really good this week.
Yeah, I was going to say in my notes for this game, I have the Raiders, of course, are the epitome of stability. Their head coach has been there for a decade and will continue to be there forever. I can't imagine him being removed for any reason whatsoever. He's just such an upstanding guy. But all jokes aside, I do think that the week is going to have negative impact on the Raiders, just because I think missing your coach for the reasons you're missing your coach is going to be kind of emotionally devastating. And also from a game planning perspective, like there's a reason he was the head coach, right? He's actually a good football mind, and I do think that coaching staff is worse off for having him from a football perspective. From other perspectives, definitely not worth having him. But I'm taking Denver because I think that Denver's defense, I think, can limit the Raiders' offense, and I think that the Raiders' defense is not strong enough to completely shut down Denver. Like, Denver had moments where they looked really good against Pittsburgh. They just were really slow to start. So I think if they can play more like second half Denver, then I think they're going to be able to score more than first half Denver would be.
Yeah, I like that too, but it's just for me, if I'm going to bet on the spread, right, I'm not going to touch Denver at -3.5. I'd rather go and take the chance of saying, okay, the Raiders could possibly cover +3.5. Because you know what, honestly, if John Gruden's still here this week, I'm hammering the Raiders. I think this line is closer to +1.5. I think it's more of a pick'em game with Gruden there. So you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, this will be interesting. Exactly. If Gruden were there, I would totally be taking the Raiders right now, but he's not, and I just don't know. So I'm going to take the Broncos just because I feel like the effects of missing your head coach have to be more adverse than they are positive.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Now we move to the worst Sunday Night Football game, I think, of the season so far. It's Seahawks at Steelers. Now, normally this could be a really interesting game, but of course, the Seahawks are missing Russell Wilson for 4 to 6 weeks. So Pittsburgh is a 5-point favorite, I believe, which is crazy to me. It's going to be a unique game, right? Neither team really has great offense, but I think the Steelers have the better defense. So I expect the Steelers to be able to limit Geno Smith. And I think the Steelers are going to be able to score because Seattle just doesn't have a great defense.
Yeah, I mean, I got Seahawks +4.5, as you can see here, +5. If +5, I would hammer that. The thing about this is, for me, I'm so like Ben Roethlisberger scares me so much. Like last week was his greatest performance ever, and it was still not a good week in 2021, right? So I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. I think Geno Smith will be good enough to win the game. I'm not saying he's going to be great by any means. I fell in love with Geno Smith when he was at West Virginia. He was playing against UConn. I was at the game, and he like ran out of bounds. Like it was like third down. He ran out of bounds like 1 yard short, and UConn won by a field goal because of the move. So it was very fun to watch. But Geno Smith, I don't think Geno Smith is anything special. But again, I think it's good enough to cover. I'm not going to take the Steelers to cover with how they've been playing.
That's a really interesting reason for liking Geno Smith, I have to admit.
Well, I used to love those West Virginia quarterbacks, like Pat White and Steve Slate, and that combo was just unreal. How old are you? Don't say. Wait, no, actually, no. Don't say. I think I'm a few years older than you. So I don't know. Do you remember like Pat White, Steve Slayton at West Virginia?
No, I don't.
Okay, that was fun. I was young when that happened. That was fun. That made me fall in love with like the spread offense. And then Geno Smith was there. So yeah. We'll keep the ages quiet for now.
Yeah, probably for the best. Now Monday Night Football. Not going to be a great Monday Night Football game just because I think that the Bills are going to blow out the Titans. Just because the Titans don't have a defense. Like you could set no players on the field, and I think that defense might perform more efficiently than the Titans' current defense does because it's how bad it is. And the Bills, they've been dynamite on offense. There's no reason they won't continue. And I think they have a good enough defense to at least slow the Titans because despite acquiring Julio Jones, that Titans offense does not look like it was projected to in the offseason. Somewhere I think Tony just cringed because he wrote an article about them being a Super Bowl favorite. And, they obviously have not lived up to that hype. So I think this one will be an easy Bills win as they continue to steamroll the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, what they did last week, going to Kansas City, like going to Nashville, does not scare me at all. I think they'll be fine, and I think they will cover with ease. Josh Allen looks like a god playing quarterback. Bills Mafia is going crazy. They know that Super Bowl is coming soon, whether it's this year or in the coming year. So I'm very excited about the Bills right now. I think they cover. And the game probably goes over as well. I do like the over.
Yeah, I do too, just because I think it's going to have to be high scoring. Yeah. The crazy thing about the Titans is that they beat the Seahawks, right? Then they beat the Colts, and then they lost to the Jets. I don't know what to say. There's no way to tell what this team actually is. It feels like it's very chaotic, but I do think that they could be an AFC South champion. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I do. You look at the roster, and the bottom line is in the NFL, anyone can beat anyone, but talent wins, right? So if we look over, obviously more data, bigger sample size, we look over the course of 17 weeks, are the Titans going to lose to the Jets again? Probably not, right?
Probably not.
And we look at the talent on that roster. It is something special there. So I think they're going to be okay. Do they lose to the Bills this week, though? Hell yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the Bills are they're just hot. They're on a roll, and like you said, they are well aware that the Super Bowl could be coming any season now.
Yep.
All right, that's our show for this week. We hope to see you around next week. Tony will be back, and thank you again, Tanner, for coming on and co-hosting with me.
Oh, thanks for having me. It was an honor. Hopefully the picks are right. That's hopefully for the people and for my wallet.
That's the dream. Yeah, for the wallet, indeed.
For the wallet, but all right, man. So that was fun, and I'm excited to see Tony back next week here on the show.
Absolutely. Take care, everybody.